friends, I'm Father Sight outside of the Holy Door of Mercy here at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in downtown Syracuse, and I invite you to join me in making a pilgrimage through this door during this special time in the life of the Church. Making the pilgrimage through the Holy Door of Mercy is one of the ways that we can encounter God's mercy during this Jubilee year. In this two-part series, we will take you on a journey of what you need to know before coming down to the cathedral to make the pilgrimage, and what to do when passing through the door and after having done so. Before making the journey to the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception to pass through the Holy Door of Mercy, there are some basic things that we should know and some things that we can do to prepare ourselves spiritually. Let's begin with what we should know. First, a word about the Holy Door itself. Traditionally, each of the four major basilicas in Rome have had a Holy Door: St. Peter's, St. John Lateran, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the walls. This year, however, Pope Francis has given special permission for each diocese to have its very own Holy Door, which is why we have our very own here at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. The traditional Holy Doors in Rome are normally sealed and only opened during special holy years in order to invite and welcome large numbers of pilgrims from all over the world. This signifies that God is worshiped, loved, and served in the context of the Church. To put it another way, Christ Himself is encountered, and the saving grace that He offers to us is received when we believe, worship, pray, and live as a member of His body, the Church. Passing through the Holy Door is not a magical portal that automatically forgives our sins. Rather, it's ritually expressive of conversion. In other words, making the journey through this door signifies that we want to leave behind a whole life that is burdened by sin and dysfunction. And we want to embrace a whole new way of life that is under the influence of Christ. We want to pass through this threshold from darkness to light, from sin to grace. Like with all of the Holy Doors, passing through our very own here in the Diocese of Syracuse as a pilgrim on the lifelong journey of conversion can gain us a plenary indulgence. Some people cringe when they hear the word indulgence because it takes them back to a time when they were being sold for money, a time when people like Martin Luther began to break away from the one true church. When properly understood, however, indulgences are yet another way that God extends His mercy to us. They are a sign that God's mercy is stronger than our sin. Pope Francis himself says that God is so merciful, He bathes us in His merciful indulgence. So what is it? An indulgence is a remission before God of the temporal punishment due to sins whose guilt has already been forgiven, which the faithful Christian who is duly disposed gains under certain prescribed conditions through the action of the Church, which as the minister of redemption dispenses and applies with authority the treasury of the satisfactions of Christ and the saints. In other words, an indulgence is the removal of the temporal punishment that we experience due to sin. Think of it this way. When a child throws a ball inside the house and as a result breaks one of his mother's favorite vases, his mother may forgive him completely and without reservation, but the child may have to use his allowance to pay for a new vase. That's the consequence of his action. So it is with sin and indulgences. God forgives our sins completely and without reservation, but the consequences remain. That's why we have purgatory, to purify us completely of these consequences. An indulgence takes them away. When we pass through the Holy Door, or even when we perform a corporal or a spiritual work of mercy or offer up our suffering if sick and elderly, when we do these things this year, the Church, in the name of Christ, grants us an indulgence, provided that we are baptized and in the state of grace, and that we fulfill the customary conditions for obtaining one shortly before or after these actions. Those conditions are: perform the suggested action, pass through the holy door of mercy, perform a corporal or spiritual work of mercy, offer up suffering if sick and elderly. Also, celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation, celebrate and receive the Eucharist, reflecting on God's mercy, profess our faith by reciting the Creed, pray for the Holy Father's intentions by saying one Our Father, one Hail Mary, and one Glory Be. With that said, we end this first part with some suggestions of how we can prepare spiritually for passing through the holy door of mercy. First and foremost, we should take some time to prayerfully examine our consciences. And remember, before passing through the door, we must be in a state of grace. So we may need to celebrate the sacrament of penance before our pilgrimage as opposed to after. Second, consider coming with a group of people and be sure to visit the Cathedral's website or call ahead in order to make sure that the Cathedral is open. A good time to go may be an hour before Mass begins so as to make the celebration of the Eucharist the high point of our pilgrimage. And finally, we should be sincere in our desire to encounter God's mercy and intentional in our resolve to go deeper in our conversion to Christ. Friends, thanks for joining me for this very first part. Next time, we will consider how to pass through this holy door and what to do after having done so. Until then, may the Lord help each of us to spiritually prepare ourselves so that we can encounter His mercy in a very real and profound way.